Hey guys, welcome back to another video. On today's video, I'm going to be talking about vulnerability, kind of the importance of it, because this is something that vulnerability and being authentic is something a lot of people I feel like have some blocks around. They're a little bit scared to show up as their truest selves, scared to put themselves out there in new situations or new places, or just be in that kind of vulnerable situation. So I want to dive into that and share some tools with you on this video. So welcome back. My name is Kara Michelle. I'm here to help you live your truth. And ultimately what I do is help women conquer their minds and create a new story so that they can live out their dreams and really make their mark in the world. And I'm super passionate about this work because I know how difficult it can be to be limited by your situation as well as by your mindset and your belief patterns, and how they can keep you stuck from actually taking after, chasing after what it is you really want to do in your life. So through doing my own personal development and spending the last 8 years traveling the world, training with different coaches and mentors and healers, and applying, learning, trying, adjusting, all these different things to get to where I am today. Now I have the ability, and I'm grateful for the chance to help other people do this work as well and make the changes that get them to where it is they want to be. So with that said, vulnerability is one of the very first things that I usually talk about with clients because it's so important to help you break down some of the walls. I'm sitting weirdly, but it's because I have to sit low enough so you can see Cass. Hey? Vulnerability is one of the very first steps that is super important to break down the walls around yourself, around your image, around what you think you're capable of, and that fear of judgment. Because the biggest thing that kind of keeps us from being vulnerable and being open, showing our authentic selves, whether this is in social media, in real life, this is in communication, it's usually this kind of fear of judgment of what are other people gonna think of me or say about me? How are they gonna respond? What's the outcome gonna be if I do that? And it's scary to put yourself out there and to kind of lay it all on the line and be so open in front of other people, whether they're people you know and you love, or whether they're people through a screen like this, right? So I know when I started my business and my Instagram channel, and YouTube's more recent, but when I started my Instagram a few years back alongside my business, there were definitely moments where it was a little bit scary to be so vulnerable and be so open. One of the things that really helped me was the perspective shift around a couple things. So firstly, it was who can really benefit from this? And if there are people out there who can benefit from what you're sharing, again, this doesn't have to mean you're sharing on social media, but even if you're opening up to a coworker, even if you're opening up to a coworker or a friend, a partner, someone who you're a little bit intimidated about being so open to about a certain thing, the thing is this going to benefit them as well by you sharing it? In my case, I started posting some really, really vulnerable stuff that some people would cringe about for sure, crying selfies when I was sharing about grief and this really difficult encounter I had with the mom of the guy who kind of pressured my brother into taking the drug that killed him. It was a very vulnerable moment and memory, and something I wanted to speak on and share about because I thought, I'm tired of dealing with life on my own, and I think other people can relate. I think other people can benefit, and I think seeing the humanness of our emotions is really important. So I was I'm gonna post this. But even if it means talking to your coworker, your partner, your friends, and being open and vulnerable, is it going to help them in a way? Maybe you're opening the door for them to realize, okay, this communication can, like, these walls can come down a little bit. You're also educating them and explaining to them what it is you need or what it is you've been feeling, which ultimately is a good thing, because vulnerability really allows communication and expression, because it is opening the door. It's like letting our guards down. And obviously this comes with trust, so you might not necessarily want to be vulnerable with everyone, but when you trust someone, I think it's natural to be vulnerable, to be able to open up a bit and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling right now, and like, I'm a little bit scared to tell you, but I need to express this, I need to get this out here, and I would appreciate your support, or just like you as a sounding board, or your advice, right? And being vulnerable allows that communication to happen, and then it allows this growth and evolution together, because now that they are on the same page as you, they understand you a little bit more. And something I talk about a lot is how no one will ever 100% understand you, but the more open, the more vulnerable, the more honest you are about things, and the more you communicate, the more they're going to understand you. So by sharing this vulnerability, you are going to allow them to learn some things about you, and it's going to help. It's going to better your relationship, your understanding of each other. They're going to know why you feel certain ways and why you've responded certain ways, and it allows you to then evolve together, which I think is so important. So in my own experience, one of the things, like, I honestly love, it's funny because when I was in Bali last week, I made friends with one of my neighbors, and he was like, he looked at my Instagram and was checking out a bunch of stuff, and he was like, wow, you're super vulnerable on Instagram. And he's like, isn't that scary? And I was just like, no. I mean, to me now it feels really normal. There's times where it's a bit scary, or there's times where I'm like, ugh, do I really want to post that? Or like, yeah, people are probably not gonna like this, but I know in my heart and soul that it's gonna help someone, and that my intentions are always pure. My intentions are always good with what I post, because I know who I am, and I know the feeling and the thoughts that go behind everything I do. And I thought, you know what, this could help someone. So to me, I actually feel really good about posting these things. But at the beginning, it obviously had some scary times and stuff like that. But what I was gonna say is that it opened the door, and that was one of the really cool things about this, is like, the more I started talking about grief and loss, or when I opened up about sexual assault, or even when I talk about trauma and like extreme anxiety and stuff like that, it opens the door for other people who are going through it to realize that they're not alone. And there's something so reassuring about that human connection, because we're all here on this planet experiencing different things and different struggles. We're not alone by any means. Like, there's tons of other people who've gone through the same things we have, and yet we always have this feeling of being alone and of being not understood, and it adds to the struggle. So when you're vulnerable and you open that door, you actually open it for other people. They see that there's strength in vulnerability, which might help them to now take the step and be a bit vulnerable, or open up, or talk to the someone they need help from, right? And it also shows them that they're not alone. And so it brings this connection piece back into human life and human experience that I think a lot of times we're kind of lacking. So vulnerability is something that is kind of like, it gets better every time you do it. So it's just like any new habit you're forming. It might be scary at the beginning. It might be a little bit uncomfortable. You're naturally going to feel weird because you're exposing a part of yourself, and that can be really difficult. But if you believe in what you're doing it for, if you believe that people can benefit from it and it has a higher purpose or a higher level of service, it can kind of make that a little bit easier for you. And I think just knowing that you got to follow your heart. So I'm not saying you need to go out and post a crying selfie the next time you're crying. But if there's someone you need to talk to, or there's something going on, an argument, and it's going to involve you being a bit vulnerable to say, hey, look, this is how you made me feel, or like, life is short, so don't hide behind this big brick wall and avoid being vulnerable for the sake of protecting yourself, because we want to make the most of it. So sometimes you need to kind of let your guard down a little bit and get into that vulnerable space, be open, express how you're feeling or what's going on with those that you trust and those that you feel safe around. And as you let your guard down and let those walls down a little bit, you actually give everyone else permission to do the same, and then they're going to naturally become a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more open, and you realize that you get to deepen the bond that you have with these people, and it's not the surface level connection that so many of us have in society. And I guess that's the last part I'll just leave this video on, is how society itself is very surfacey. And we're just like, hey, how's your day? Oh, it's great. Oh, mine was really bad because of this. I'm stressed. But like, that's the most conversation we have. We don't usually get into the deep stuff and the deeply rooted issues, the pain, the bigger emotions. You know, so much of it is just kind of like back and forth, and then we're running off our separate ways to go do things. And vulnerability allows you to create a real, deep, authentic, true connection with people based on true emotions and experiences. So it really opens the door, and it's just very powerful. So I would say that vulnerability, as Brene Brown says, is actually a strength, and it's something that allows you to not only better your own life and your own human experience, because you're connecting more to yourself and all of the emotions and feelings you're having, but it also allows you to strengthen those bonds with other people around you, because you're being honest and open, and you're no longer kind of blocking yourself off from fully feeling or fully attaching or sharing and being open. You're opening that door for them, for yourself as well, and that's when the connection comes. That's when the light shines down on both of you. So that's my couch message for you today. The dog has left the building, but thank you guys for being here. Please give me a thumbs up, give this video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and comment down below if you have noticed vulnerability in your own life showing up somehow, and if you've realized that it can be a strength as well and help you move forward and get more connected with those around you. So I'd love to hear your experience, and I will see you on the next video. Bye guys.